Good morning. This is Faith in Our Hometown, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin. And now, here's your host, Father Jay Friedel.
Well, happy Easter, everyone. I am so thrilled always when we get to this time of the year because those are special celebrations for all of us who are Christians. And we'll share that celebration with anybody that wants to share it with us. But for us, happy Easter. And for any of you out there, just know that as we celebrate our most important day out of our Christian year, we're happy to share it with any of the rest of you this morning as well. My guest this morning is going to be Gordon Keyler, who is the lead pastor over at Unity Church. And so we're going to be talking to him a little bit this morning about, first, the joy of Easter, and then secondly, about the presence of miracles in our lives. Because, sometimes people ask us questions about, well, why would you believe in, a resurrection from the dead? And why would you believe that miracles still occur like that? And it's kind of our business. So we're going to talk a little bit about that this morning and see how that impacts our lives today. So you just go ahead and get that cup of coffee and maybe some of your Easter candy and come on back. We're going to be right back after this quick Mercy Minute.
It was silly to be so dreading it so much because it was really no big deal. There was no pain afterwards. I was really, really hungry, so I got to have whatever I wanted to have for lunch. But the rest of the day I just slept, and there was no pain, and went to work the next day. Every day that I opened up my refrigerator and saw that referral on my refrigerator, I just dreaded having to go through it. And now I just kind of laugh about it because it was no big deal. And knowing it's behind me, I just don't have to worry about it. Well, my husband and I, we do a lot of riding, and we kind of cram everything into the weekends. But eventually, we'd like to, once we retire, we want to be able to go on vacations on our bikes and go riding on weekends a lot more. So we have a lot to look forward to.
Well, again, welcome back, and again, happy Easter. My guest this morning, Gordon Keyler, who's the pastor. Now the Reverend Gordon Keyler, I hear.
Yes, thank you.
There you go. So you were actually ordained recently for your
yes,
denomination?
I was a year ago today.
Wonderful.
A year ago soon.
Well, I don't know how I missed that. But at any rate, Gordon is over at Unity Church. And so, Gordon, I mean, you've got good reason for celebrating. You said that even during the pandemic, your church has grown.
We have. Even doing things 100% virtually.
Yeah.
We have been able to reach more people. We've been able to have people who have been shut in. Before COVID, they were shut in, and now feel much more connected to the congregation, that they can tune in with us live every Sunday.
Yeah, and you, like so many of us, are starting to open up a little bit more because of the great health news we've experienced here in the area.
Yep, today. As a matter of fact.
So, and we've been open, but we're finally getting rid of some of the space restrictions. We're going to stay masked at St. Peter's and probably in the Catholic churches in this area, just simply because we still want to give people that sense of a little bit of security for those who are going to get vaccinated a little later.
Yep.
But for many folks, there's a new sense of hope and kind of renewed vigor in the community because more and more people are getting vaccinated and more people are feeling that it's safer to be around each other. And of course, our health officials are telling us the same thing.
Yes.
That it means it's a lot easier. I'm looking forward to seeing some of our folks who are shut-ins who've had their shots. I've had mine. It'll be nice to be able to get back together and to do some of those things. So let's first a little bit about Easter, and then let's get to your topic of miracles, because I thought that was kind of a fun topic for today. So obviously, all Christian churches today are celebrating Jesus rising from the dead, which many people would consider the greatest miracle. To win over death. Is kind of a starting place for us in terms of miracles,
Yes, certainly. And resurrection is symbolic of things we do all the time. Jesus modeled this behavior for us that in ways, we're having a resurrection right now with resurrecting from this COVID experience when we have been in the tomb of COVID, isolated. And that is a miracle, the fact that we are finding ways to work around the challenges of the pandemic and also to cure the pandemic as well. But resurrection is about an awakening. Jesus awakened all of us to the truth of what is possible.
And I do. I mean, I like you. I mean, I tend to think in religious metaphor because that's just who we are and what we do for a living. But I find the fact that that we had this, suddenly humanity was confronted with this plague, if you will, this pandemic of, that we haven't seen something like this in so long, where we've lost so many to an illness, bang. But I think about all the scientists and all the people who designed the vaccines and all that stuff. I mean, that's just, people say, well, that's just science, they're just doing their job. But I still think it's a miracle that we managed to do it. I mean, I take this the way in which it's offered, but we did it relatively quickly, considering what could have happened. And and again, my sympathies out there to all those folks who've lost loved ones during this time. But the death toll could have been even worse. If we'd not been able to get a handle on this thing and figure out how to protect against it.
Yeah. And Father Jay, thinking about the scientists that developed this, there's a miracle right there. The scientists did the manipulating of chemicals and whatever they do, but where did the inspiration come from? Where did the ideas of which avenue to go down of the research to discover it from? Came from divine intervention, divine mind. And there's a tapping into that.
Yeah, and I think that, even the fact that people were able to rally, I think is, a bit, I know some people who just didn't think they were this tough.
Yeah.
I know some of our shut-ins think that, just like, well, I just didn't think I was going to be able to survive this. And now all of a sudden with a reopening and us getting to visit some of those folks again, people being vaccinated can be in, I've just heard people talk about the miracle about hugging their grandma and grandpa, or grandmas and grandpas talking about hugging their grandkids for the first time in a year. And for them, that all feels miraculous. That all feels like, and again, who'd have known that we were that tough? But the requirements kind of make us tough. But that also made us resilient in a different way, to be able to experience it from the other side.
Yeah. And it empowered us to find new ways to connect. One of the things that we talked about at Unity one day was the fact that we're wearing masks. People can't see you smile in a mask.
Oh yeah,
We learn to smile with the eyes, learn to smile with the energy or the spirit we put forth.
Yeah, I thought it was funny because everyone was like, how do you know I'm smiling? Well, I can see your eyes. I can see your eyes sparkle. It's like, I prefer to see the whole face. Trust me, I am not advocating that we wear masks any more than we have to. I love the fact that, that now people that have been inoculated together can be in the same room and don't have to worry about the distance and don't have to wear their masks. And I think that all that's phenomenal. And I definitely have looked forward to that for a long time. But you can get past some of those barriers. I will tell you, one of the little things for me was I was I was a little bit claustrophobic. I was always fine if air was hitting my face, but if I was covered up, I always just had a little bit of a I don't like this. Now it doesn't even faze me. So in some ways, an Easter side, if you will, of COVID was the fact that I don't, that I'm wearing a mask so long that I don't no longer that little bit of claustrophobic that I was.
Yeah, I find sometimes I forget I have it on.
Yeah.
I'll get in my car, be driving down the road and thinking, oh, it's kind of hot. Oh, I got my mask on.
Well, mine is so often hanging from my ear.
Yes.
And I'm looking for it, and then all of a sudden I'm like, here we go. Since I don't wear glasses, it's one of those things where people say, they're always just saying my glasses are right there on top of my head, and I couldn't find them. Same thing true with the mask. I'm just like, where's my mask? But but I've got, and I think it's also entertaining. One of these days, I think we're going to have to do a thing on mask collections, because so many of us have so many different kinds and versions, and for this occasion and that occasion and this.
It's become a fashion item.
It has become a fashion. It's an accessory. How to accessorize. So Gordon, say a little bit more. You're the one that came up with the topic for miracles, okay? So why don't you say a little bit more about miracles and how you see them working in our present day lives?
Well, if you look up the word miracle, it comes from an ancient root, Latin root, Greek, further back, and it's the same word as mirror. It's the same root. And it always has fascinated me that when you see a miracle occurring, what are you seeing? We're seeing an outworking of a higher level of understanding of law. I really believe that's what Jesus did. He was able to understand how the universe or the world works, how energy works, and how people respond to the words they hear. One of the miracles that has always fascinated me was the one where he fed the multitude. And I've read many theories on what actually happened there.
And we'll never know.
And we won't ever know for sure. But one of the theories is that they really had all the food there the whole time, because people carried food with them when they were going out and knew they were going to be gone all day.
Yeah, no self-respecting mom is going to let their kids go out with, making sure that they got food for them while they're gone.
Yeah. The miracle that occurred there was not some magic trick where they magically multiplied, but he got the people to share their supply with each other.
Oh.
And that takes, just look at our world today. What if we all did that? That would be a miracle. It takes a lot of knowing how to speak to people to get them to that point. And that's as much, if not more, in my mind, of a miracle than if he just, said a prayer and, magically multiplied it.
And I think it's very important that, those of us who share the Christian scriptures realize that there's a multitude of interpretations.
Yes. Yeah.
But I love the one that you bring up that basically said that could have been the miracle too. Mm-hmm. Some people just have it in their heads that it happened, that all of a sudden there was one fish and they just kept appearing as they came out of the basket. Okay, that works.
And maybe, who knows? We weren't there.
but we can all agree that they're inspired, that those stories are inspired. We can all agree that they're ours. We can all agree on all those things. But when it comes to interpretation, everybody's kind of got to get in there and mess with it themselves. But I like the idea of the fact that miracles can occur on different levels too,
Yeah, there's the big miracles, like Jesus resurrecting. I can't explain that other than that he was able to regenerate his body.
Yeah.
And
or was raised up according, again, depending on how you interpret that. What I think is interesting about that is that not just the event of, 2,000 years ago, but the fact that it continues to play itself out in our lives today.
Yes.
That to me is a huge miracle. Whenever I see loss or pain or suffering or darkness in a person's life, in some ways I can't short circuit it for them, but I want to whisper in their ear, just watch and wait for the resurrection.
Yeah.
Watch and wait for the new life. It's gonna appear.
Yes.
It's gonna show. It will be there. I'm not sure when, and it's not like it's on God's time, certainly not my time.
If only it was 3 days for everything. Yeah.
But it always happens.
Yeah.
It always
does.
It always occurs, and that miracle occurs, in the lives of believers, in that context.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, thinking about the healing miracles that Jesus did, one of the things that it says he said to people several times was, "Your faith has made you whole." Your faith. Now, he was the channel, the facilitator, if you will, but it wouldn't have happened if they had not had the faith. And that's a big part of seeing miracles and experiencing miracles, is having that faith that there is a higher power, God, as Christians call it, that there is a higher power at work that intervenes and that flows through the person or the people having the experience.
Yeah. Well, as one of my theology professors once said, miracles don't cause faith, but faith causes miracles.
Yes.
And I think that that's relatively true, still to this day. My guest this morning, Gordon Keyler, who's the pastor at Unity Church, and we're going to be right back after a real quick break, so don't go away.
You're watching Faith in Our Hometown on KSN TV, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.
Well, again, thanks for joining us this Easter morning. I hope it is glorious for you, all of us who celebrate the resurrection. We're talking about miracles this morning, and again, my guest, Gordon Keyler from Unity Church. Before the break, Gordon, we were talking a little bit about the fact that that it's really that miracles don't cause the faith, but faith causes the miracles.
Yes.
And sometimes, I think it's I'm going to say I think that sometimes it may be a fair criticism of those who will criticize and say, well, you're just looking for all that stuff and you're just making it happen in your own mind. And I'm like, well, yeah.
Sure.
I mean,
it has to start somewhere.
I don't have a problem with that.
Right.
I mean, I just, when people
either.
accuse me of that, I'm just kind of like, yeah, it's kind of the way I see the world.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the way I sort things out because of my own, religious imagination. And by that, I don't necessarily mean that I think I just make things up, but I think it's just that we learn how to see with eyes of faith. We learn how to see a little differently in the world. And because of that, things look different to us when you have that perspective. So, of course, I'm going to be looking for resurrection in somebody's life. Of course, I'm going to be looking for a new life when somebody's been through a period of darkness and I see them burst out into the light. Of course, I'm going to be looking at that during this whole COVID experience for the new life that we're experiencing because of being able to open some things up that haven't been opened up in a while. And I just that's learning to see as far as I see with my religious imagination or with the eyes of faith. Again, not making things up, but certainly being able to sort things out and give them meaning in my life because of my experiences in the many ways that I've seen it lived. So in other words, for me, it's just kind of like somebody says, well, how do you know Jesus was raised from the dead? And of course, we can go back to the forensics in the tomb. The tomb was empty. Okay, but I didn't get to see the empty tomb.
Right.
All right? So the only reason why I know he's alive now is because I've experienced him alive. I experience him alive. I experience him resurrected. I don't think he's dead. I think he's very much alive and living still. And you and me and anybody that believes and anybody that belongs to him, all of us other Christs, there you go.
We have that Christ spirit, that Christ center within us.
Yeah.
I had a professor in seminary who asked this question in a class one time. He said, let's do this. Imagine that there was proof positive, beyond all doubt, historical evidence that Jesus had never existed. Would that change your faith? Good question. Where's our faith? I do believe Jesus existed. I do believe the stories are true. Just want to set that record straight.
Yeah, and I mean,
but even if it was proven it wasn't, what is my belief anchored in? A man, or what the teaching of the man was, what the energy of the man was, what the example was? Yeah. And which is more powerful? Well, they both are powerful. The man, Jesus, gives us a face, a person that we can have a personal relationship with. The teachings and the example, the modeling of the way to be, gives us the pattern for our own lives.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I do think there is, again, I will agree with you, there does seem to be a preponderance of evidence historically that Jesus, the person, existed, okay? So that's not something that most people would argue about. Of course, where the arguments come in is who was he and what was he all about, and as you mentioned, his energy and what it was his truth and those kinds of things. So the way we've sometimes described that throughout history, a lot of Christians have is, there was the Jesus of history, but now we encounter the Christ of faith.
Yes.
Now we encounter Jesus there. But it's an interesting question that your professor does. It's just like, I guess if I didn't know that he existed in history, I guess that would make a difference to me. But certainly, there's not much historical evidence other than the fact that he was there and that he died, and and there are the records of those things. But what for me is fascinating is that all of a sudden, shortly after he died, there was this big explosion of people who believed that he was still alive. First his disciples experienced it, and then other people experienced the risen Christ, and it began to spread until pretty much it was, it became a much bigger movement around that whole Mediterranean world. That was his first mini explosion, if you will, of Christianity, where it spread beyond just, Jerusalem and what we'd call the Holy Land, but then it spread to the whole Mediterranean region. Paul and his journeys and all those things. I mean, it's just pretty amazing.
It is, especially when you think that for the first couple hundred years, there was no central church planting churches in various places. It just organically spread. And you know, it wasn't like a few people saw Elvis in a 7-Eleven. It was there were multiple accounts of
if anybody's
people.
going to get credit for raising up Elvis in a 7-Eleven on Easter, buddy, it's going to be you, not me. I'm just saying. Just saying.
But it was an organic growth.
Yeah. I mean, again, it was just, and again, I think it was that whole business about people experiencing the Easter event at different points in their history, at different points in their lives, which made it a whole different experience. It wasn't just telling a story of something that happened back then.
Right.
It wasn't just stories of the good old days. And I think that that's still true for us today, that these are not stories just of the good old days, but they're stories of us and how we experience the risen Christ here and now.
Yeah.
You know, because again, if it was just a story that happened 2,000 years ago,
it's just a story.
Yeah, that's not. There's not much excitement in that.
No.
I mean, it's nice, but for me, the excitement is that I still experience it. You know, that we're still somehow unpacking this. 2,000 plus years later, and we're still talking about how the Easter experience affects us.
Yes. Yep. How it inspires us to rise up. How it inspires us to walk in a higher path. Yeah. Especially the way we treat each other.
Well, I mean, and our world could use a dose of that right now. Oh my goodness. You know, I mean, to quote Paul, you know, if Christ is not risen, your faith is vain. I mean, it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
And I just see that as that has to be the fruit, the flowering of what we believe. It's got to be in the way that we treat each other.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like, you know, when you've got death destroyed, life ought to be lived differently.
Yes.
You know, it shouldn't be the same.
No. Not at all.
It should be different because that changes everything. At least certainly in my mind and heart, it changes everything. And I would hope in the heart of everyone who believes in Jesus that it changes everything. I mean, we can't lose.
You're right.
And so we don't have to have the most toys, and we don't have to be on top, and we don't have to control everything. It's just kind of like, let's enjoy the new life that we have and share that with each other. And I would hope that would change the way that we treat each other.
Yeah. You know, when you have that experience of a rising of that Christ within, the story becomes personal. And you look on others with new eyes. A real Christian can look on people who are different and still see the unity between us. You're Catholic, I'm unity. Somebody over there may be Buddhist or something, but we're all one with God. And we have our different paths.
As I say to everybody, show me somebody who isn't a child of God.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
God's still responsible, at least in the way we see it.
Yeah. And then we can follow the pattern. You know, in unity, we really see Jesus as our teacher and way shower, which, you know, I believe all Christians do at some level. But I tell my people, what did he do when he walked into a village first? He fed, he healed, and then he taught. It was about people can't learn if they're not fed and healthy. And that inspires me to follow that pattern, if you will. Feed first, heal. And I can't lay on hands and heal, but we can, through prayer, through counseling, through meditation, through being with people, we can help people heal.
Yeah.
Physically, emotionally, all of that.
Now I'm gonna challenge you a little bit here,
okay.
Just in terms of some of that. Just because Catholics are really bad about this. They say, "Oh, we don't believe in that kind of healing," and I'm just like, well, "Yeah, we actually do."
Yeah.
You know, and I know you do too,
yes.
At one level. I'm not going to tell you that I expect it to happen every time
right.
that I lay on hands on somebody and pray with them. But one of the things I've always been absolutely convinced of is that I know that God's going to bring healing through that touch. We may not always get a cure,
right?
But God is going to bring healing through that touch, and that's the new life that can come into somebody's life, even if they don't get the cure.
Right.
But we've long believed that, like Jesus, we can lay on hands and we pray for healing, and we pray for physical healing and emotional healing and mental healing and all those things. That's got to be part of what we believe, because if we're trying to model what he did, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, sometimes I always, say, well, we don't do that the same way. I just say, well, maybe not quite the same way.
I think the difference is when we lay our hands, when we pray with people, we do expect a healing. We don't always know what form it's going to take.
Right.
But what we don't do is walk in, I'm going to heal you.
I'm going to somehow cure your illness.
That's
right,
pride.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I've known those things to happen.
They do once in a while.
But those that's a little outside the norm. Mm-hmm. But the other happens all the time.
Yeah, it does.
All the time. And I don't want to lose sight of that one,
right.
Because it is the one that occurs all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, we got about 30 seconds. Any special words or wishes for Easter for everybody?
Well, I just hope everybody has an awakening of that Christ within this Easter. We are walking out of a tomb experience as a species, globally, into the light. And let this Easter be a real stepping out into the light of understanding, love, and wisdom.
Well said, my friend. We're going to be right back after this Mercy Minute.
Cancer is the leading cause of cancer deaths in the U.S., and now we have an effective tool to screen for it. A low-dose CT uses a lower amount of radiation than a standard chest CT.
Breathe in.
Better detailed pictures than a chest x-ray of small abnormal areas of the lung. A person must be between 55 to 77 years old, asymptomatic, which means they don't have any symptoms such as coughing up blood, chronic cough, shortness of breath, unusual weight loss, or any other worrisome symptoms. They must also be a current smoker or have quit within the past 15 years, also must have a 30-pack year history or more, which equates to smoking 1 pack a day for 30 years, or 2 packs a day for 15 years. People generally avoid these scans, possibly due to fear of what could be found. Like many other cancers, if we can detect lung cancer early, it could be very treatable and life-saving.
Well, again, very happy Easter to all of you. Thanks for joining us today. My guest this morning was Gordon Keyler, and we were just talking about the importance of celebrating that life that flows up from us, especially on a day like this. That life that flows within us because of how we live our lives and what we believe in and who we believe in and the way that we try to put all that into practice here in our hometown. I know we've got lots of different Christians out there. We've got lots of other denominations out there. This is our special day as Christians. So to all of the rest of you, we thank you for sharing some of that with us this morning. It is our joy to be able to share that new life with you as we celebrate this day. And just make sure we all get close enough that we can share with each other all those stories about how life continues to go on. So we are going to sign off this morning, praying for all of you and wishing you the best. Happy Easter, and join us again next week for Faith in Our Hometown.
Thanks for watching. Faith in Our Hometown can be seen Sunday mornings at 6:30 and 9 a.m. on KSN. Brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.